Okay. Setting up our meeting for Facebook Live. Okay, done. Redirecting us to the Facebook Live, and we are now live. Okay, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everyone for the patience. We really, really appreciate it. I had a little bit of difficulty getting started here, but we are live now. And so listen, the original purpose, just kind of give you an idea of how fast acting what we're dealing with right now. Original purpose was more of a business purpose. I wanted to talk about from an industry perspective, what do we do with? I mean, as we're going crazy with rates, how do we deal with EPOs? And, so I figured actually it was great actually to have, leading attorney Ari Karan join us. I wanted to have, KP's perspective, Kevin Perenio, who's chief of lending, for PRMG, because he would be able to speak about, what he's dealing with from the retail side, and also from the broker side. I mean, he's a leading wholesaler, leading retail mortgage lender, and obviously Anthony, I wanted to have to talk about, what he's seeing out there from other wholesale lenders, but that was Friday when we had this concept, and from Friday to today. First off, if you've been watching in anything on Facebook Live, there's just been a ton of information that's been shared. Fortunately, we have our good friend, dear friend to us, our entire industry, Barry Habib, has just been tirelessly sharing information. By the way, Anthony, is a great presentation. If someone wants to catch the video you did today with Barry, where would they catch that?
The best place to go would probably be either my personal Facebook page or my business page. I've shared it on both those Facebook pages and on LinkedIn, and we'll be sure to share it on our the AIM official AIM national page tomorrow as well.
Fantastic. And just listen, just so everyone knows that if you see me texting here, it's just communicating with my team in the background. But I want to actually just kind of get a perspective now. Anthony, when you and I started talking a few minutes ago, I mean, just to kind of give you how volatile the situation is, talked about actually the complete government shutdown.
Well, I mean, I think the announcement today was the first phase of probably multiple phases in sort of starting to limit or restrict, just our everyday lives, to be honest with you, while we get through this. So President Trump's announcement today was really just about limiting social gatherings to 10 people, which is obviously the smallest number that's been put out there yet. In various states across the country, there's been announcements today to really restrict, day-to-day life at a greater level. I mean, in Pennsylvania, they just announced a statewide lockdown. New Jersey earlier today did something similar. So bars, restaurants, curfew of, I didn't see what time the curfew was, but some type of curfew, public transportation, all these different things are going to be going on. And, it's my guess at this point is that every day that goes by, we're going to see an increase in the level of restrictions that we see. And the truth of the matter is just, if you compare our situation to what happened in China, at the end of the day, because of, the way their country works, they were able to get a control of the spread of this virus when they really realized how big of an issue it was. And, they did it by, to be honest with you, if you read the news, they ripping people from their families, putting them in isolation, welding people's doors shut. I mean, they took some very aggressive ways of just containing it, things that are not going to happen in America because our way of life doesn't allow for that to happen. So this is growing, it's spreading, it's not something to be taken lightly, and it's going to have a big impact not just on the United States mortgage industry. It's going to have a big impact on everything. And you saw the airlines already requesting a bailout. This is going to impact a lot of people. That's all I can say is that, the people that can't get bailed out are the people I'm most concerned about. So, whether it's the guy with the hot dog stand on the street or, just your everyday Joe who can't be out of work for 2 months. So it's going to be very impactful.
Yeah. So I'm just curious, Kevin, if you wouldn't mind sharing from a physical standpoint. I mean, obviously, I see you're in your office right now. Are you there by yourself pretty much?
No, we have a crew here. So I did a LinkedIn video last night, and it's kind of where I put out most of my personal content, which touches on different things and some of the things that PRMG is up to. We sent an announcement out on Friday, and well, first of all, most of our employees already work remote. So we have, I mean, especially the underwriters. Almost all of them are remote. Talk about 130 of them. So we're already used to being remote. This isn't new for us. We've put systems in place for years. Literally, we have a line of credit with Dell Computers to have centralized, computer, I guess control. So from a compliance standpoint. So maybe Ari this will make him feel good. But we have the ability to wipe computers clean and laptops clean, and we have Citrix software that we use. We have different routers for people at home. I mean, just this, we're not scrambling here to do anything. So, but on Friday, we do have our corporate headquarters, and we have some branches. And what we put out as a notice from the corporation was say, look, if you feel like working from home, raise your hand and we'll get you a computer. We're not mandating it yet, but we're saying if you can, or you already have that ability, we suggest you do it. And so we haven't made a full blown, like everyone absolutely must. Our building's pretty big here. We have almost all 3 floors of the building. And we feel pretty good. I was just in the elevator on the way up here, and one of our employees in our registration setup team, who's been working literally until midnight every night, she said, I don't want to work from home. She's like, I want to come in. And I'm like, well, until a government entity says we have to, we have enough social distance here. So we don't feel the disruption. We've got a big order of computers coming online. So far this morning, only 7 people raised their hand in our entire company that said, hey, I need equipment to work from home. So we feel pretty good about at least that part, moving forward.
Well, that's great. So you said actually that you prepared a message that you shared on LinkedIn last night. Can you talk to a little bit about that message, and really more importantly, I want to know the kind of messaging that other executives should be sharing, with their employees, because I gotta admit, I'm talking to a lot of employees out there that are saying actually that they're not getting the message from leadership, and I just don't know if actually if there's people are scared of saying things. You've always been this fearless leader that has been actually not worried about saying what you wanted to say, whatever was ever on your mind. You share some guidance to the other executives out there that are facing actually the same situations that you're facing.
Yeah, I think just to kind of talk about a few broad points there. Now it is a crisis, and leaders are needed in a crisis. And so one thing I've said to Anthony Casa, when you talk about, let's talk about the wholesale channel, for example. I mean, you're talking to a bunch of independent business owners who the reason they chose that path is because they want to do everything, and they're their own boss, and they don't want to answer to anyone. However, they do have people they look up to, and Anthony Casa and the other leaders of the sponsors in the AIM group, whether it be Matt Ishbia or Phil Shoemaker or myself or David Schroeder or everyone else that's in that, Laura Brandeo, John Gibson, I can go on and on. That fills the leadership vacuum for an independently operated business. What do they do? And so, yeah, for my retail channel, I turn around and we have leadership there, and they have one voice to listen to, and it's very streamlined and orderly. It can be confusing on the TPO side. And so that's why I love the leadership, that Anthony and the rest of the sponsors have stepped in and provided. And now is a time of crisis. And so, this isn't the first pandemic that the nation has ever faced. We faced SARS, we faced MERS, we faced H1N1, we faced H5N1. So, these are all pandemics that we've faced. This is the first time that we've reacted the way we have to face a pandemic. And I think it's prudent. And in this age of information, unfortunately, the information is fluid. Some of it's rumor, some of it's truth, but there's a lot of information to react to immediately in this. We're in the 4th industrial revolution. You hear me say it all the time. You get what you want, when you want, how you want, at your fingertips, interconnected globally on a cell phone. That includes information regarding deaths, cases, mortality rate, who gets affected, what's going to happen. Oh my God, this county did this and that city did that. And, well, Anthony just said someone, welded a door shut, things like that. That information that gets out there, it's being processed by us, and human nature takes over. And so as leaders of either our independently owned business or of this industry or of our organization, this is where our voices are needed the most. In fact, Anthony put out a message this morning saying that to all the AIM sponsors, saying, hey, Matt, your people need leadership right now. You need to be talking. And so I know that there's a lot going on, and I'll just touch one more thing on the side before I kind of yield the floor. There's a lot of people looking for guidance in times of uncertainty. Barry Habib led a call yesterday. There's 31,000 views of that video that some other people put on yesterday. And, it was, Frank Bryan, Josh, and, some other gentlemen that were on there. And it was about 1,100 people on its peak, and it was viewed 31,000 times in less than a day. Anthony put out a video with Barry this morning and with Logan Motashami this morning. We're putting out this video now. People are looking for information in times of uncertainty. So we have a great responsibility to make sure that information is accurate, make sure that we calm our people. I've personally been through multiple hurricanes. I've been through tornadoes, 2 of them personally. I've been through disaster. I've dealt with death. I've dealt with things that are unsettling. I've seen people die. It's not going to be on that level. I've been to the financial crisis. I've been in this business since 2001. The banks and the industry need liquidity, which is why the Fed did what they had to do. And, banks did it before the banks and the market makers seized up like they did during the financial crisis. So we still have functioning businesses. We still have functioning credit markets. We still have functioning society, and people aren't dead in the streets. So I see these lines at Costco, and I see people kind of going overboard, and I understand it. People are kind of, it's human nature. But as it relates to our business and what we can control as leaders, I think we have to send a message that, we're listening, we're processing the information, we have a game plan, and we're moving forward with that game plan, and things are going to change. Things are subject to change, and we will adapt to those changes. And let me just make one last comment. A lot of liquidity in this market, especially as it relates to wholesale, comes from very few lenders, and a lot of them are non-banks. And the Mortgage Banker Association just had a meeting with all the wholesale executives. I just got off it not even an hour ago. And then after that call, I had a call personally with Phil Shoemaker of Home Point and David Schroeder of Caliber. And we talked about things that are coming up. Like, for example, in California, Santa Clara County, LA County, they're changing the way they record deeds of trust. So in the state of California, you can't charge interest as a lender until the deed is recorded. So we're all coming up with a game plan. Do we use the secure system and record e-recording through there? Do we go with a third-party vendor? How are we going to make sure that credit continues to flow through? We're talking to our investors and who we sell loans to. These are all things that we're dealing with. We're dealing with VOEs. We're keeping an eye on and pressuring the GSEs to get PIWs and waivers so we don't have issues with appraisals. John Tallinger sent a text to Casa and myself yesterday. 16,000 orders are out at class evaluations. Only 2 instances of appraisers, 2 out of 16,000 right now, of appraisers not wanting to visit for fear of their own safety. VOEs, if someone's off work, how do we handle that? Do we just take the risk and say this is like a furlough, they'll come back? Or, what is the guidance there? We can sell directly to the GSEs and we can take care of that. Forbearance. The NBA is working with the forbearance. The NBA is working with the White House. The Fed just put $200 billion to work specifically on mortgage-backed securities. They don't want that to go to waste. So they're going to make sure that Mildred at the county recorder office isn't the reason that credit comes to a grinding halt in the state of California. So these are things we're all working on, and there is information, and the people behind the scenes, especially those of us at lenders with liquidity, are working through it. We're the ones that providing credit to the markets. And so there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I'll yield the floor back to you.
I just got to say it, so you've got a little bit of fan club already, actually. So we have Jason Glass said this. I don't know who this guy is, but I'm literally really ready to take on the world after listening to him.
Let's go. I mean, this business is still fun. I mean, we're still having fun. We're still putting people in houses and serving our communities. Yeah, it's going to be turbulent, but this isn't something we can't handle together.
Yeah. So, so as we're getting the message out there, Ari, I wonder if you could share with us some kind of guidance on things that we should be saying, maybe shouldn't be saying, and both to whether it's our employees or to the industry or to the to our borrowers. Any kind of guidance that you could share?
Sure. I think the thing you've got to remember, like, you have to divide it up and still balance both sides of it. So, for example, there has to be transparency. If, for example, something is going to be delayed or slowed down, create the expectation for the borrowers, understanding what that is, and balancing that against the fact that you don't want to create panic in them or lack of confidence. But there is a balancing of that information. So, for example, if you're a lender that didn't have as many remote capacities and things are going to be slower in underwriting, just as an example, right, or processing in some form or fashion, you would have to create those expectations for the borrowers and then take the steps that are necessary, whether they're lock extensions, whatever they might be, so you avoid those problems for the borrowers and at the same time balancing it without creating a lack of confidence. Because I think the thing that happens is, in situations like this, people are already paranoid, right? They expect something to go wrong. And if they know ahead of time what to expect and those representations are made and kept, then confidence actually gets restored. On the other hand, in this sort of vacuum of confidence, when deadlines are just missed or things don't happen when they're supposed to, it actually magnifies that paranoia and that concern, and things sort of go south. So I think that's an important point. With respect to employees, I mean, look, there's a lot for companies to consider from an employment perspective. Really, state laws are really critical. You've got to look at whether your state has a mandatory paid sick leave law, whether it's passed some type of emergency legislation, because the things that you can do with employees really depend on that. You've got a lot of federal laws still to worry about, whether it's whether it's the Americans with Disabilities Act, and all these unique questions, as lawyers that we get. I represent some hotels as well as a lot of mortgage companies. And, I got a really interesting question the other day, which was what happens when we heard that one of our cleaning staff, his brother tested positive for the virus. And now none of the other employees want to work. And then what do we do? And we don't even know because it's just rumor, right? These are one of a kind, precedent setting questions that we as lawyers have never had to answer before. So you have to, there are answers you can usually derive from other areas, but these are all questions that we as employers and leaders of companies need to think about and not just sort of do on a wing and a prayer. Consult with counsel on these types of things because the answers are not common sense oriented. A lot of times you've got to think about state laws, federal laws, and how they work together to achieve a common sense resolution. And the steps you have to make to go through those. So I think that's important from the employment side.
That's great. So, I mean, you mentioned something there. I just wonder, like, do mortgage lenders, do they actually bear any kind of liability because of infections from vendors?
I wouldn't think that there would be any liability from a vendor. No, I wouldn't think that would be the case. Right. Absent you having knowledge, an appraiser calls up and says, right, I'm infected with the virus. Yeah, I don't care. Go in the house anyhow. We need that loan to close. Yeah, then probably, right? But absent something like that, I think that the sort of a vicarious liability from that would be pretty difficult to ascertain how that could happen.
Yeah. Okay. I figured that. I just had to ask that. So, Anthony, I wonder if you could share with us, what kind of messaging should brokers, and originators overall be sharing with borrowers?
I think right now, I've been taking notes all day, talking to different people on how they're handling this. And, if I were to give people advice at this point, I would say stay in process, number one, because we are in process as we speak. And this is an evolving process and we're learning new things every single day. So stay in process and be measured in the way you communicate and be measured in the way you handle yourself, because, you can't, what you thought you were capable of doing a couple of weeks ago, that's going to change over the next couple of weeks. If you're a loan originator or a broker and your fulfillment can no longer do fulfillment, or if they're fulfilling loans at a slower pace, that's going to impact what you're telling your realtors and what you're telling consumers. So I think, making sure that you're setting realistic expectations, that you're, being responsible with, understanding that not everything is in your control. You could be best loan originator in the country, and at the end of the day, you need an underwriter, and you need a closer, and you need funding, and you need all these different things. And unless you're doing everything, which nobody is, you have to be realistic that the market is changing. And these are just things that are happening right now. And I think it's great to take everything one step at a time. But it's also very important to be prepared. 48 hours ago, I didn't have a computer at my house. I didn't have a desk at my house. I've never worked from home pretty much in my life, to be honest with you. So, those are things I have to be prepared for now. So I think, we have to be prepared for what the next, week, 2 weeks, month, 2 months looks like. And that's important.
Interesting. It's it's someone actually who, like yourself, we know actually, that you wake up 3:20 about every day. It's amazing to know that you don't even have actually the computer
I like
at
working
home.
in the
So.
office. I'm one of those people. Like, my light switch when I'm at work is on, and when I'm home, it's easy to be on the phone, but it's not as easy to get real work done.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It makes sense. So listen, guys, I really don't want to take up anyone's time too much today. We're already about 20 minutes into this. I wanted to just get some quick messages. My original purpose of what I wanted to pull out of this is completely derailed by the way actually the events have changed over the weekends. So I really, really appreciate it. Is there anything else that you want to say? Ari, is there any closing thoughts that you want to add?
Yeah, I would just say try to be a step ahead of things. I mean, most people right now understand what we're all going through, and even if they don't understand it, they appreciate it. So I think if you are a step ahead and communicate with whether it's borrowers, employees, there's a certain understanding that goes along with it, with a situation like this. And so I think as long as people are transparent, balanced, as Anthony said, really controlling the messaging, people are going to get through it. We'll be fine. Just got to work through it. Carefully.
Yeah, I like that. And by doing that, you're showing the confidence in your employees, you're showing the confidence in your borrowers, and they will follow. They need that. They need that. We need right now, we need leaders. KP, would you mind actually sharing any kind of closing thoughts that you want to add?
Sure. Yeah, I think that I think communication is super important. To kind of touch on what Ari just said, Anthony had given guidance to the leaders of the group that's the leader sponsors within AIM and their organizations. It's something we're already doing. I wrote an email on Sunday to our entire company. I wrote an email last week. I put out a LinkedIn video last week. I plan on putting out another one tonight. I just wrote a global email literally while we're on the phone, showing that the national quarantine is a hoax, that the National Security Council issued a statement today confirming the text suggesting that we'll enforce a 2-week national quarantine within the next 72 hours after revoking the Stafford Act is a hoax. I got that text message 3 times. My wife got it yesterday. So, getting communication out to our people is important. You can't over communicate enough in a time like this. You can't put out enough content as long as there's value in that content. You can't put out enough. There's a lot of people that are looking for guidance and information, and we're all very busy. I will just kind of reel it back into PRMG's perspective. We have 2 founders, Paul Rozo and Robert Holliday, and then myself and Gary Malice. We're the 4 owners at this company. We got on a call last night at 8 until midnight on the West Coast. So we were on a 4-hour call, and the majority of that call was about what's our strategy going forward to make sure that we serve our originators. We're built by originators for originators, and we were game planning for the month of May. Okay, this is how much locks we want to take in this month. This is how much staffing we're doing. I had 20 resumes sent to me last week for underwriters alone. People, even underwriters, are looking to work for good companies with good guidance and good communication and good leadership.
Yeah,
we're game planning for our lock volume. We're game planning how we're going to take care of purchase business and not miss closing dates. We're game planning on how much we're going to take in 2 months from now, 2.5 months from now, and we game plan for the rest of the year on a 9-month cycle. we are in a good position, and I think people are looking for financial strength, and people are looking for confidence, and people are looking for a team, especially run by Gary Malice, our Chief Strategy and Capital Markets Officer, and one of the partners here, who had a call with Anthony Casa, by the way, today, looking for guys like that who have been through and seen it all and can put a company on solid footing. So when originators count on us, no matter what channel, they can count on us. Because, you know, to Ari's point, there's liability, but then there's reputation. And one good thing that Anthony does, and he talks about communication and over communicating, that's about your reputation. I mean, hell, the reason I got on LinkedIn is because somebody said, you know, we're this type of way or that type of way. No one's going to control our identity and our message. And so I think that advice stands for anybody. I think it stands for you as an individual loan officer. It stands for you as an individual broker, as a lender. It doesn't matter who you are. Put something out on social media. People are looking to us as leaders and advisors. And I would say remain calm. You know, this virus is going to be suppressed the way we're handling it. We won't have a peak that will overrun our medical system. And as soon as we hit the peak, you're going to see demand and job and the markets just snap back incredibly fast. Will it take 3 months? Will we get to our peak in number of cases in the middle of April? I don't know. But typically a pandemic that's handled correctly lasts about 3 months as far as getting through it. But the information we're looking for that's the game changer is, are we at a peak of new and confirmed cases? And when that information comes out, you're going to see the Dow, the NASDAQ, rates, everything's going to go up. And so right now, we just got to make hay with what we got during the sun shining. And I'm really looking forward to this next couple of weeks. You know, we're all in this together. There's a lot of collaboration going on amongst peers and lenders and colleagues. We have liquidity. We're working through it, and we're serving our communities the best we possibly can.
Fantastic. Great message, Kevin. Really appreciate it. And Anthony, you wrap it up actually with your closing message.
What I would tell everybody to do is always be prepared to be on a Facebook Live. Andrew's got some kind of disco light in the back of his room. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, there's like all kinds of flashing lights.
I know. I wonder what kind of party's going on in the Berman house.
Ari's knees deep in his work from home mode. I mean, just, guys, get some lighting, get a room that's appropriate for the situation. Please get your lives together. But no, my message to the market is just
Ari's camera's kind of greasy. I think he needs to wipe that thing off.
Yeah, you gotta wipe that.
I usually don't do these, so the cam thing, this is a first for me, so you know.
Amazon's still delivering.
So doing good, brother.
So anyway, I would just say that, you know, everybody's doing their best right now. My recommendation is for the people that are leading, you know, the Barry Habibs, all the different media outlets, you know, we have to, you know, we have to be diligent and listening to the voices that are coming from a good place. And I definitely think there are some really strong voices that are coming from a great place. I personally try to, you know, kind of crowdsource where I get my information from, because this is a learning experience for me. You know, I've always been on the originator side, so I'm learning, you know, capital markets from people like Gary Malice, and just some really brilliant people out there. And the interesting thing is, a lot of the people that I talk to don't actually, they've never seen a storm like this before. So we're learning together, but everybody's being compassionate. Everybody's understanding that we're all facing our own relative issues at this time. So be open-minded, be understanding that regardless whether you're a loan officer, a lender, doesn't matter what your role is, you're facing pressure that you haven't faced before. So be open-minded and compassionate to everybody, and we're going to get through this. I mean, it's just a matter of you know, understanding what the problem is, figuring out a solution, getting through it, and we will definitely get there.
Casa, I just want to point out that you know, we have casual wear here at PRMG because, you know, that's how we roll. But I wore this tie for you because I knew you would wear a tie. You always mean business. And I wanted people to see that even on Monday, after this craziness going on, we mean businesses here as well. So I wore this literally just for you, this tie. I was expecting a comment.
I literally bought an iron just so if my dry cleaner closes, I can wear a shirt and tie.
I even started working out the last couple of weeks because you called me a bloated wood tip.
All right, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time, you know, to join us today, share this message. So, you know, one of the things you said, Anthony, I think that's an important thing is you're ready to do Facebook Live. And so this is a great time, actually. You know, so if you haven't done video, There is unbelievable information that you as an originator are capturing out there. Some great information. Watch Barry's videos. Like, there is a lot that you can learn off of there. Now, don't go try to explain the technical speak and understand actually, and explain what's happening with mortgage-backed securities. But there is a message in there that you could share with your community. This is a great time to kind of be live, and maybe you don't have a fancy discotheque like me, but wherever you are in your home, actually, please, start. It's time to start, as Mr. Lucido and I always say, it's time to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate you putting this together.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thanks,
guys.
Bye.
All right. And with that, we're going to end this. Thank you again, Andrew Berman from NMP. Thank you for joining us. Be safe out there.